we go. We've got the two different Brassies. This is McFly Angler.
Starts now.
Well, hey McFly subscribers. So today I'm going to be tying a Brassie. This is just a normal Brassie. I'm also going to be tying a micro Brassie like this. Okay, they're actually two separate techniques. I'm pretty much the same fly, just two different ways of doing it, and you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. The hook today I'm using is a Risen 2488, and I'm doing a size 14. And I'll also be tying a size 24. Okay, so let's, I like putting them in just slightly canted down, like so the bead doesn't want to push back as much. And the bead, so the hook here is, as you can see, Risen's 2488. Sorry, size 16, I said size 14. It's size 16. And a 2.4 millimeter brass bead in gold. Okay, you can use other colors. I use black a lot. That's really good. You can do that. And then the thread is Vivus 10-aught in black. So, for this first technique, you want to start the thread right under the bead, as you can see. I'm right up under it. Okay. And then we are going to build a bit of a thread base under this. I'm going to spin my thread counterclockwise because I've started to cord it up. This is a flat thread. So as you can see, now we're able to wrap a little bit smoother. Once you spin that thread, it flattens that out, and then it makes a much smoother base. Okay, we're going to come up a little shy actually of the bead like that. So next we're going to take some Brassie sized copper wire for this size hook. Now it's going to be a different size with other size hooks, but find 14, 16, maybe even 18, a Brassie size works. Then you want to step down the size if you're going to go smaller. Of course, increase the size if you're going to go larger. And you just pull off 5-6 inches of it, and you use the bead. As you can see, I've got this placed inside the bead here. Okay, and what that's going to do is that's going to help keep this from, because if you don't, it's going to want to see how it rotates around too much. This kind of locks it in. It's going to rotate a little bit, so you want to start at the bottom here, but as you can see, it'll help kind of rotate that right to the side. Okay. And then we are gonna, as you can see, I've got the flat thread going. We're just gonna go all the way down. You don't have to go too far down. Let's go ahead and uncord the thread again. Okay, so I like going to about there. And you just come right back up. And excuse the squeakiness of this bobbin. So now, once you do that, the initial start here can be a little tricky. So you don't want to use your rotary feature on that. You just want to make sure you get that started. Okay, and if you've got any spaces, you can push it down with your fingernail a little bit. Okay, and once you come up a little bit into that bend a little bit, then you can start to use your rotary feature if you've got it. Okay, sorry if my finger gets in the way, but you just want to kind of work it up. You can, once you get the hang of this, you can go a little bit faster. Sorry, my finger is just getting right in the way there. So you just want to wrap right up on top of each, touching wraps there with that wire. And you could, if you wanted to make a quick knot here and use use the bobbin kind of holder thing and then do the wraps, that's fine. You can do that. I just unravel it with each time, and see that didn't touch there. So I'm gonna try to make sure that these are fully touching wraps. You don't have to go all the way up. Okay, so you can see there's a little space between that bead. Then you're just going to capture four or five wraps over it, a couple wraps in front. Let's go over it one more time. And you pull tight. So I'm actually putting a little pressure, and you can just helicopter that off. There we go. So now you can see that creates a bit of a rib. And if you keep that initial tie-in pretty even like this, you're not going to notice if that starts, when you initially tie that wire in with the thread, if that starts wrapping around, you'll actually notice it. But if you keep that even right along the side of the hook there, you almost don't even notice it. It is a little fatter on that side, but it works out just fine. So then you grab peacock hurl, just a single is fine. And the tips here are pretty fragile. So if I was to pull, you can see it just popped right off. So you want to cut down a little bit. We don't need a whole lot of this hurl. You've got one here that it's shorter fibers on the bottom and long on the top. And you want to tie that in so those fibers are sticking out like that. So as you can see, the longer fibers are kind of towards you. Okay? We're just gonna tie that in. And then these are a little fragile. So a little dot of super glue is just gonna help keep all that in. And what that does is, that gives you, if you tie it in that way, it allows for that thicker side, the longer fiber side, to stick out. Okay. Now you could make this collar a little bit longer if you wanted. It's up to you. Okay, you don't need a whole lot of wraps here. And do a wrap over it, wrap in front, wrap over it once more. You just cut it off. You could break it off if you wanted, but be careful because it could unravel. And then you simply, you don't need a whole lot of turns on your whip finish. I like having the whip finish end up top, and you'll see why in a second. You could make that a little bit deeper of a collar if you wanted, a little more of the hurl there. Then I've got this Solarez ultra thin resin. It's also called bone dry. It's got a little paintbrush and it's really thin stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna put a little dot right up top. You don't need a lot. And then you just come in with your UV light, just zap it really quick, and that hardens that, and that whip finish isn't going to come loose. And there we go. That is the finished Brassie. Super simple, really easy pattern. They're very effective. And you could tie them in a number of different colors. You know, chartreuse. You got the copper, which I used. Gold. You could use gold if you wanted. I've got olive. Could do red, silver, any of these colors. They come in a wide range of colors. And next I will actually be using red, as you saw. I like these micro ones to be red, but there we go. There's that. Now with the micro, I don't use a bead, and that's because how I fish these micros, I fish it behind a heavier fly as a red annelid. That's usually how I fish these. I'm not using a bead on these, like I said. The wire itself is, you know, heavy enough that it's going to allow it to get down a little bit. So we're going to be using a small size. You could use extra small also if you're going even smaller, like I've tied these down to size 30. But you want to give yourself a little bit of space here to work with, to hold on to. You'll see why in a minute. I'm sorry my fingers are in the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I usually do 6 or 7 wraps. That was 7. I keep remembering how much I used. And you just want to work this so they're touching. Work them up, pull on this tag end to really kind of tighten that. And then you can, with your fingernail, bring this down. Now what happens is, if you were to tie this in with such a small hook, you would notice, like I said before, where the side, we're trying to make these thin, right? So this will fatten it up, as you can see, because you're tying in the wire, so it fattens up one side. So you could use this technique for any of the Brassies. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So there's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I usually do about 14 wraps. You don't have to count it out. You just, but anyway, so you just use your fingernail like I did there. I helicoptered it off. And then helicopter off the back. There we go. And you can see there's a little bit of a tag end sticking up. You could totally leave that. It's fine the way it is, but you could use your fingernail to bend that down a little more. Okay. You can see those are all together. So I pushed it back a little bit to leave myself a little room there, but you don't want to go too far back. Next, we are going to use Vivus 6/0. I'm sorry, 16/0, not 6/0, 16/0. And that's because it's, it's a very fine thread. It is pretty strong actually, but we're going to go ahead and start that right up by the head. You can just break that off. Okay. And then we are going to wrap over a little bit right there to hold. As you can see, I wrapped over the wire, and that's going to hold that wire from moving back and forth. I don't do peacock with these because it is so fine. I use this UV2 fine and dry, and I use the black. You could use other stuff too, other dubbing. If you want to get something, I mean, I know that they make like peacock colored fine dubbing. You could do that. Really, I put too much of that stuff on there. There we go. You don't want much. You really just want to touch dub this. And then we are going to just form a little dubbing head. There we go. Four or 5 turn whip finish. You could do a little more if you wanted. There we go. Now that broke off, and a lot of times I would rewrap over that, but it's such a small fly, it really doesn't matter because we are going to use this Solarez resin again at 2 spots actually. So obviously now this wire, if a fish tooth caught this right back here, it would unravel that. Okay, so you want to make sure you keep that from happening. So we're gonna resin up the head, and then we're also gonna put a touch of this right at the back there, and then we're just gonna cure it. Simple enough. And there we go. That is the finished micro Brassie. So you can see that's much easier, and you could actually use this technique on a larger one if you wanted. It does go a little quicker than tying it in and all that, so you could definitely do that. But those are the 2 techniques I use for tying Brassies. And there we go. We've got the two different Brassies. Both very effective. Obviously this one's going to be a little more durable, but this is much quicker. And a lot of times when you're fishing these flies, I mean, you're going to be losing them. You're fishing, especially the small ones, you're fishing with really, really fine tippet, so you are going to be breaking off quite a bit. I used to fish this a lot on the San Juan River, so if I wanted a red annelid that's going to get down a little more, the weight of this is the wire will help it drop. But it's a really good tailing fly on the back of something with a bead. You could actually fish both of these right here. But the red annelids are really small on the San Juan River, so this tends to work really well for them. So you could make that head a little smaller if you just wanted to use thread. You don't have to use the dubbing. You could put a bead on if you wanted a small bead, and then push that wire up in with some super glue up into the bead and hold it, and then, you know, you could do that as well. It's up to you how you want to fish these. But there is a couple different techniques. I hope this helped. Now, obviously, Risen is my sponsor. That's not the reason why I use their hooks. By the way, this hook is not a Risen hook because I don't think Risen makes size 24. I think they might be trying to soon. So don't quote me if I'm wrong. They maybe do already, but I don't have any. So that is, let's see, which hook am I using? That's a lightning strike. Okay. I had a 100 pack that I've had for a really long time, size 24. But I used to use those a lot on the San Juan River, but I don't use Risen hooks just because they're my sponsor. I use them because they're really good hooks at a good price. I mean, I do pay for my hooks with them. I do get a little discount, but so do you guys. Type in McFly at checkout when you go to www.risenfly.com, and you'll get 15% off of anything you buy on your first order. I do get a small discount with them, but even without a discount, these are really good priced hooks. Just amazing hooks, okay? So for the quality, I mean, super sharp. Let me see if I can pull that other one up and you can take a look. So this one is barbless, as you can see, but they're, I mean, just as sharp as almost any other hook out there. Really, really sharp, okay? And they're strong, you know, and they're great price. So really hard to beat for the hooks. They also sell rods, reels, and whatnot. For anything else that they don't sell, for instance, if you wanted the UTC wire, I don't believe they sell this specific brand of wire. They might sell wire at Risen. I know anything they sell, they manufacture themselves on their website. But if you're looking for other wire, go to the Fly Artist, and they're also offering, it's a 5% discount, but they are also offering a discount. So again, type in McFly when you check out at the Fly Artist, and you'll get 5% off of anything you buy there. So I also will link to all the products I use, not only the hooks and beads from Risen, you know, all the other stuff that I used here at the Fly Artist or Risen, wherever I get it, okay? And you guys can purchase it if you need it, if you don't have this stuff already, at a good discount. So it's hard to beat. So definitely check them both out. Definitely helps out the channel if you buy from them. I do get a small kickback from Fly Artist, and Risen being my sponsor, it really helps if you know, buy from my sponsor. But more than just that, it really will help you guys out because it is good deals and great quality materials. So anyway, if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that like button, and I will see you guys on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.